On this episode of ResiWeek, RTI adds mirror view video products, CEDIA debuts a new 3-year strategy plan, and AVIXA dabbles in residential at Infocom 2018. All this and more on this episode of ResiWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is ResiWeek episode 106, Connected AV.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by HD Base T and by Daylight, the leading producer of high-quality projection screens worldwide.
Welcome to ResiWeek. This is your weekly wrap-up of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matt D. Scott for AVNation.tv. Today, I'm pleased to be joined by Jeremy Glowacki. He is the Managing Director, Content for Residential Systems. How are you, sir?
Thank you. I really appreciate that comment there. And I'm doing well. I'm smarting a little bit after watching team figure skating last night.
Why? We won. Won figure skating.
Yes.
Wait, wrong team, right?
Yeah.
Is that the problem? Yeah.
I'm an American.
We won moguls today. I won. Not me, but
see again.
I love the Olympics.
I do like the Canadians.
I
don't have a lot of problems with the Canadian team, but I'm trying to get into this thing. I'm trying to. I don't get
have
patriotic.
A lot of problems with them. I have some, just not a lot. Yeah, I don't know. I absolutely love the Olympics, specifically the Winter Olympics, because, well, Canadian, it's what we're good at. Snow and ice. That's all we got. The person you see laughing in the corner is Tim Albright. He is the founder of AVNation.tv. How are you, sir?
I am well. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I feel like I haven't seen you in weeks.
In forever. We spent an entire week in Amsterdam last week at ISE. So
yeah, if you weren't following along, Tim and I were gallivanting through all 15 halls of Amsterdam at the RAI, enjoying ISE 2018. Lots of coverage there. If you haven't seen some of our coverage, you can check it out on the website, avnation.tv/ISE. Is that right?
I'll double check that. I don't think
we'll double check. We'll get it for you. It's probably not right. We are on. Did we mention we just got back from a week in Amsterdam? I am still recovering.
Our time is a little shifted.
Yes. But that being said, let's jump right into our first story. That actually it's going to dovetail into ISE. This comes to us from Residential Systems. RTI acquires MirrorView, their video over IP product line. This was announced, I believe, Wednesday during the show. And essentially what happened is RTI acquired this video over IP distribution system and is rolling it right into their complete product line. What is fantastic about this is that it's going to allow RTI dealers to have not only full access to a fairly good selection of video products that they maybe weren't able to obtain through RTI in the past, but more importantly, it's going to give them some native control of a lot of these video products. What I wanted to use from this was not just to talk about the RTI side of this and their acquisition of this and, moving into a company that, again, is just trying to offer as much as possible to every dealer, but specifically wanted to talk about this release, but also just talk about ISE in general. So, Jeremy, your view on RTI grabbing MirrorView and essentially expanding their entire line with, I want to say, almost double the number of SKUs now with this entire video product. What is this going to do for RTI?
Well, I think that RTI just continues to mature as a company. Their newish CEO seems to really have an idea of how to run a company and find the pieces that they need to fill in the gaps that they have. They introduced a lot of new products that had been kind of in engineering hold. They'd been trying to tweak things to the point where they weren't releasing anything. He came in and took the reins and said, we just need to start getting things out and have firmware updates. And I guess, they see the writing on the wall as far as competition, other control products out there also having a video over IP solution, a strong solution. this mirror view. They've been around for a couple of years in the channel. They introduced the product, I think, in 2015 at CEDIA in Dallas. They were shipping a year later, the typical routine, show something and then actually release it a bit later. But they were at ISC last year by themselves with fully shipping product as well. It seems like a good, strong product for this category and a good addition to the RTI family. It does some unique things in terms of using a transceiver as opposed to a transmitter and a receiver separately, two different boxes. It's one box. It also has a wireless capability, so it can be a repeater. It's works over coax as well, so in retrofits. And that looks like their background is in hospitality before they got into the Resi channel. So they had a lot of experience, a lot of reps working with multi-TV situations and hotels, I guess. So to me, it looks like a company that knows what it needs to get, add to its arsenal to be a full-fledged solutions provider. So I'm pretty impressed with the move, and showing RTI is not just going to sit back and be the kind of quiet little control company that I think they kind of seem to be at times in their history,
Very good. Tim, this was an interesting release for me because we got it, I believe, while walking the show floor. This came out.
Yeah, Tuesday morning.
We were walking around and I got in my email, and full disclosure, my personal company, we are RTI dealers, which is partially why I got quite excited about this. But it raised an interesting question because part of their press release mentioned how they were going after the commercial market. And part of adding all this product line allows them to continue to go after the commercial market. And when we interviewed them, we asked them about that. What does ISC do for residential dealers, residential specific manufacturers when they go to the show floor and are able to exhibit, again, arguably a product that's most well known for residential, but that is being used extensively and growingly in commercial, and get on that show floor and not just having only residential dealers, also having commercial integrators there as well, being able to see those products?
Well, it does two things. First of all, it recognizes where the market is. We've talked about this, and other people smarter than me have talked about this, the fact that the European market, the European AV dealers, by and large, tend to go in both camps. They tend to be residential and commercial dealers, as opposed to in the U.S. and North America, where if you're a commercial dealer, by and large, you don't delve into residential. Now, when the recession hit, a lot of residential dealers did start doing what we call light commercial, so doctors' offices and small boardrooms and such. And so that shift started happening in 08 and 09. And so at least from the residential side into commercial, that started mirroring what's already been happening in Europe. The fact that they're doing this, and they're not alone, actually just accentuates the fact of where they are. They're in Europe, and that market does fit in both sides. They do residential and commercial. It also says to the North American dealers, hey, we recognize you guys are already going into commercial spaces. Here's a product for that, right? Here's a product that we've shown, or at least the company has shown, works in residential installations. And we think that it's also starting to work in commercial as well.
So let me come back to you on another side of this. Obviously, this was something we saw on the show floor. Tim, because you were there, and then Jeremy, I'll ask you what you saw from, here stateside. What did you see on the show floor that got you most excited, or you found most interesting from the residential side of things?
Well, for me personally,
you personally,
me personally, residential specific, right? And this is nothing against the commercial things that we saw, but there's two things. One was Control4's new control processor, and the price point of that, and it's $350 US dollars, and it gives a good entry point into control and automation. And I'm an old programmer. that the control side is still the side that gets me the most excited about AV. The second one is a brand new product, and it's not even being shipped yet, but it's from our good friend, Mr. John Ivey, who is an underwriter of us at Atlas IED. But we walked up and he showed Matt and I this, and I'm not kidding. It's the size, if you're looking at it in the ceiling, it's a ceiling speaker. And the footprint, for lack of a better term, on the ceiling is the size of a
sprinkler head.
Sprinkler system. And it's a 2.5-inch hole that you drill into the ceiling, and you place this, and it's a small, virtually disappearing speaker. He can even print the pattern of your ceiling onto the head of this speaker. And from both a commercial and a residential standpoint, this is something that you can put into somebody's home, and you can have a speaker disappear, which you guys all know that architects, by and large, don't like speakers.
Yeah,
right? They don't want to see black boxes, white boxes, purple boxes. They don't care that you can match the color of the wallpaper. They simply don't want to see them.
And the big thing that makes that product different is because it's not the first small form factor, speaker to go in the ceiling. There's a couple of brands that make 3-inch speakers or 2.5-inch speakers that are designed to mirror a 3-inch pot light or something like that. But those are little, 3-inch speakers. What John's product is a full size, I believe it's a 6.5-inch driver that is in the ceiling, and for lack of a better term, funnels down through. It's really exciting. The fun part is it's not shipping yet. They're ramping up production, and they'll have that coming soon. And that's one of those things that you saw and just went, oh, wow, that's cool.
Yeah, I believe he said by Infocom he should have pricing and shipping dates as well.
Yeah, very, very cool.
And if he didn't say that, now he will.
Now he will. As long as we're putting words in his mouth.
Yeah.
Jeremy, you were not at ISC, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, with 80-some thousand people. What did you see from stateside? What was released that got you excited, or what trend did you see that got you most excited about the Resi side?
Well, I have to be honest, there wasn't a lot of news out of the show other than what we've already talked about. The big thing for me would be going, if I were to attend, it would be to have that opportunity to kind of cross over into that commercial side and see some things that I don't normally see at CEDIA. I don't go to Infocom. I used to go to Infocom back when I worked with Systems Contractor News more directly. Now that team, they take the lead on the show, and I don't need to be there. But it's that rare opportunity to kind of have that crossover opportunity, see those things, even just in passing on the commercial side that you don't see at CEDIA. And Crestron, is a big player in the Resi side as well as commercial. It's the chance to see them at a trade show now that they're not at CEDIA. But I didn't miss them because I actually did attend their dealer event. So everything that they were introducing was just working actual physical shipping models of things that I saw in prototype form when I went to see them during their dealer event in New York. So I was thinking, oh man, that would have been a miss. But I think it's just to be able to hold a remote that's actually working as opposed to is a little different. But obviously that news from RTI, that was a big one. And Control 4, they always use it as a news show. I think that ISC for them is definitely, it's on their development path as far as we're going to introduce a new product at this event. Yeah. It's not just a repeat of what's at CEDIA. So that product that Tim mentioned definitely was notable, and we've got a nice review of it from Dennis Berger. So
very good. Yeah, definitely check that out. I read that after the release came out as well. The last thing that I'll add to this is probably the one other thing that we haven't talked about that I found very exciting, I guess. Meridian released, and I cannot remember the model number, so John, you'll have to forgive me if you're listening to this, but they released their new streaming box that allows you to AirPlay or Bluetooth or do whatever you want to get something into a Meridian system. And when we were talking with them, they kind of alluded to the fact that in the past they've always done their own thing and essentially told you as the consumer, no, you can't listen. You can't AirPlay into our system. What's wrong with you? Get a higher quality source. And they've kind of shifted focus and maybe, for lack of a better term, realized the market a little bit better and are going after that younger crowd that wants to be able to say, hey, I have this on my phone. Let me send this into my very nice system. And they've developed a way to do that and add some secret sauce onto it to make it sound as best as possible. I thought that was fairly fantastic.
I found I believe that's the UHD 722. Is that 4K?
I think that's the 4K switcher.
Okay.
But notwithstanding, go to Meridian's website and you can find it, or check our video that should be up very soon, if it's not already, that shows it. All right, gentlemen, let's move on to our next story. This also comes to us from Residential Systems. CEDIA has unveiled their new 3-year strategy plan. This plan aims for significant advances in leadership in 3 key areas. I'm not going to get too deep into this. Suffice it to say that, one, if you were unaware, I am a CEDIA board member and not speaking as a board member. We're talking about this as good old friendly industry friends. But the couple keys to get excited about this is that they are planning to focus on creating standards, boosting education, and outline a strategy to deeper develop engagement within the design build community. Jeremy, I want to start with you on this one. And you were actually, you sat in on some of the board meetings this past or last month with CEDIA. Since CEDIA is going through this change right now, the fact that they have fairly quickly come up with a plan, and if you read through the article is fantastic, as well as CEDIA's press release on this. But they kind of outlined what they want to do, and they didn't let that, post-show sale timeframe linger too long without having a fairly extensive plan as to where they want to go. Having read this and having been involved in this side of the industry for so long, what were your key takeaways from their new strategic plan?
Well, I was looking forward to learning more about the plan when I went to the board meeting, and it was part of the meeting that wasn't public, so I didn't get to learn anything there in person. And the news came out at ISE, and they were kind of holding back for that. But I have to say that I guess as a press person, you're always looking for a big story, something to grab you. And I guess it started when I was there. The big news for me when I went to the meeting was that Tabitha O'Connor was, named the new CEO after serving in the interim capacity. And that kind of set the stage for, we're going with the known commodity here, the person who's kind of leveled things off with transition from Ben Bruno, kind of kept things together. Tabitha has been with the association for a long time, held various different roles. And then when the news came out about the 3-year plan, I didn't see that there was anything kind of revolutionary about it. It was just, these are the things that they've been talking about. This is what our focus is going to be. It's a great focus. I think it's great to put it down on paper and say, this is what we need to always make sure we're touching upon. We're not going to get off on tangents, because we know this industry always gets off on tangents. If you're an integrator or an association, it's easy to fall prey to the shiny object out there, Mm-hmm. And I did notice that during the meeting, that even though the words about the specific details of the plan were not available to me, there are references in the meeting to the plan. Does this fit to the plan? Are we getting off on the wrong tangent with this idea because it's not within the 3-year strategy? Which I think that's a great guidepost for the board going forward, it sounds like, and for the association, for the members of the association. And I think that the big thing for me is the standards. There's always been a need for some guiding light here on standards. I don't know if it's too late, if we can get a hold of what that needs to be, but to have a voice of authority, just to say, this is where we need to be as an industry. Let's get together and make this work. working with other groups, that's always been an agenda item, making that obviously a big focus because you're not distracted by running a trade show anymore. Maybe it's easier to put resources into that. But this association needs focus. It needs a purpose. The show used to be the purpose. It's not the purpose anymore. And it has to be about education. It has to be about standards and working with other industries. So that these seem like the obvious choices. I don't think they missed anything. I think that they're right on here. I don't know if I need to pay a consultant to learn that, just being a little on the snarky side, but I do think that, it just reaffirmed what they already had in mind. So that's good.
Very good. Jeremy, Tim, you obviously have been following this as well. What does this mean? What's your takeaway from this?
Okay, so let's go down this list here. You have standards, want to create standards. You have education and professional development and deeper engagement with decision makers outside of the industry.
Yep.
Sounds an awful lot like AVIXA. And not trying to be snarky here, but it sounds it's exactly their playbook when Infocom changed their name to AVIXA. Trying to do, AVIXA has been all about standards for well over 10 or 15 years under the former leadership of Randy Lemke, and now with Dave Labuscus at the helm. They have several standards committees. Great on CEDIA for doing that. Deeper engagement with folks outside the industry. That was one of the key points that AVIXA pointed to, is that we're going to start reaching out to folks like the Retailers Association, the Bankers Association. CEDIA should do the same thing with builders and architects, and also professional development and education. AVIXA and previously Infocom has long been known to, encourage their members to take classes, get the CTS, the Certified Technology Specialist, and the two special designations, installer and designer. I think it's a great idea for CEDIA, but it sounds a lot like AVIXA as well.
But is that not what you honestly kind of expect from a trade association?
Absolutely.
That needs to continue to grow.
Yeah. The fact that they haven't done it yet is a little amazing. I mean, I remember, good Lord, 6 years ago when we made fun of the, what was it? The Ewok sounding name that they gave you guys.
The Eskies.
The Eskies.
Well, and
they seem to keep trying to find themselves, and this sounds like a great idea.
I don't know if it's necessarily new. These are things that they have been working on in the past. And, again, that's not insider board information. That's general membership information that they have been working at.
But they put a focus on it, right?
Yes, they're focusing on it and driving on it. And I think that's something that comes out of the sale of their show is and we've talked about this in the past, the number of staff and the time that was dedicated to that show is now being dedicated to other things, which is good. Since you brought up AVIXA, I'm just going to mention this real quick. And this is noted in AV Mag. You can read this later if you want. AVIXA has announced an agenda for an integrated life one-day thought leadership event leading up to Infocom 2018. Essentially, they have announced an agenda for a new program that's going to take place on June 5th at the Westgate. And this is a one-day thought leadership event that's going to feature interactive panel discussions on crossover opportunities between commercial and residential. Jeremy, you've been on both sides of this market as well as the three of us have. What does this mean? Why is AVIXA going after or at least investigating connected life, which, if you read between the lines, they're talking residential?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is Emerald as a threat buying CEDIA. I mean, I have felt this from the beginning when I saw the AVIXA moves, that for some reason CEDIA as a partner with ISC didn't seem to be as big of a problem. But if you have suddenly this entity that is Emerald, which is a beast of a trade show management company, as a threat, they're going to see another, kind of opportunity there to compete. They need to have some kind of answer. And it's also the Internet of Things and all the buzz that is residential technology. You need to have an answer for that. It's really interesting to me, though, because commercial for the longest time really was much cooler than resi, and from their standpoint. Like I don't think they have the ability I mean, they seem like they're the pros. They're the ones that are out there. They're the veterans of the AV technology business. And when you deal with talking about Resi stuff, that's kind of like the I don't know, the minor leagues or something like that. And now they're talking about, they're dabbling in it. They're having a day dedicated to it. I think that's an interesting turn of events there for them. So it's probably a good thing. I do think it's an answer though to a threat.
Very good. Tim, you just kind of led into this about how the two industries seem to not cross over, but be going down the same route.
Well, I think that this is also an answer to what we talked about earlier, which is the fact that it's a realization of where your people are, where your members are. And as AVIXA tries to become more and more international and more global, and they've done a really good job of that over the last 5 or 6 years. Infocom India is a growing show. Infocom China, now they have 2 shows there. And obviously ISE is a huge success. Those dealers, those people who are AVIXA members are in spaces. They're dealing with IoT, to Jeremy's point. They're dealing with the Internet of Things. They're dealing with voice control. And I think it's a realization and an acknowledgement of where their dealers are. Now, in the North America, those dealers still, by and large, dealers are still not necessarily in residential as a good percentage of their business. But there's a lot of bigger dealers that are doing higher end homes, multi-million-dollar homes or several $100,000 homes as a division of their business. And so this is a recognition of that. In addition, you have the recognition that IoT and voice control is becoming an increasingly important part, or at least starting to get into commercial AV, and getting those members up to speed on what that means.
Very good. All right, gentlemen, we have to cut it there. Thank you so much for joining us. Jeremy, if people want to connect with you, where can they do that?
On Twitter at ResiSys, RESISYS. You can go to the website, residentialsystems.com, or email me at jakelowacki@nbmedia.com.
Very good. Tim, thanks so much for joining
us
you missed today. Me. I totally did. I haven't seen you for one whole day.
I know. It's ridiculous.
I was going insane.
You're having withdrawals.
Very much so. Very much so. That's why my voice sounds like this.
Yes.
All right. Where can people connect with you?
Twitter. At this point, I'm rooting on the Blues and the men's American Olympic hockey team.
So good luck,
Tim David.
Yeah, you'll need it.
ALBRIGHT.
Don't you love the way I talk about it? Like I know what's going on.
You have no clue.
I did my best to understand curling last night, though.
I still don't understand curling. I need Brock McGinnis for that.
I think I get it. I think.
Can I just chime in?
Sure, please do.
Yesterday's coverage in the afternoon, and granted, I should have had something better to do with my life, but it was a cold day.
No.
You did not watch curling.
Woo, curling.
I watched an hour of cross-country skiing.
Oh, that was a good hour, though.
Followed by curling. That was horrible programming.
The three guys from the Netherlands that won?
Yeah.
The dude that crashed at the open. Dude, that was crazy. I was riveted for an hour and a half.
It was better in Rewind at night when they said, here are the highlights. Like, oh, wow, I did miss something. I think I nodded off or something.
Oh, my gosh. That's fantastic. I watched biathlon yesterday as well.
Oh, I
don't know how you missed that.
I don't
know.
Nodded
off. The one where they shoot?
Yeah, it's the one where they shoot. Yeah, it looks tough. Anyways, thank you so much for joining us. For myself, if you'd like to follow me, you can find me on Twitter at Matt D. Scott and every other social platform. But more importantly, please stop by AVNation.tv, where you'll find this show as well as a wide variety of our other shows with all the verticals that we cover. When you visit the website, please take a moment to check out our underwriters. We are extremely thankful for their support and ask that you support them as well. Thanks again for watching. That's all the time we have for this episode of ResiWeek.